Hey, Stephen here. Now, today's episode was recorded at Brown Street Cafe. It's not actually on Brown Street, in Rosebank Road, Avondale, in Auckland. So our thanks go to Jeff and the crew for looking after us. And also, I can highly recommend their buffalo hot wings, and they have an amazing eggs Benedict too. So check them out. They're really cool. And enjoy the episode. And welcome back to Reality with Reality Hub. Rob and I are here in a cafe today at Brown Street. What do you think of this place, Rob?
Before we even go there, I like the place. Great. Thanks for having us, Brown Street.
Yeah, thanks for letting us record, Jeff.
Yeah, very, very accommodating. But the fact that we're even here is something worth to celebrate, because this is my first cafe venture out and sitting down at a table and enjoying a fine coffee. Yeah, so cheers to that.
Cheers to that, chink.
Chink.
There you go.
And the reason being is because our restrictions that have been in place for the last 7 weeks have sort of opened up. So pretty much everything's open now, I would say.
I think so. Yeah.
Oh, some pools are not open, I believe.
God damn it! I miss the pools. So
Because of water, for another reason, because of water restrictions now, because we're currently still in a bit of a drought.
yeah, not because of COVID.
No, so it's not because of that, but the gyms are open, cafes are open. Oh, some bar. Well, so here's the thing. Some bars are open. I was out last night and I saw a bunch of bars open.
Really?
But I think there are some restrictions in terms of they've got to serve food and you can't stand at the bar or stand outside, or you got to be seated. I mean, I don't know.
That's right.
Exactly.
I saw on the news that she was talking about headquarters in downtown Viaduct in Auckland, and
Right.
they sort of skirted the rules by providing 100-person dinner or something. Maybe I've got that all wrong, but they definitely were providing a 3-course meal in order to get enough
Get
people
around,
at the venue to make it worthwhile.
I suppose the people in the hospitality industry would need to, be familiar with those rules and then say, well, how can we stick to those, or how can we skirt around those? And I'm sure there are people, human nature being human nature, there's going to be establishments that are just going to be a bit more lax on that.
Yeah.
I mean, from what I gather, particularly as time moves on and people start to relax a bit more, they're out and about and sort of normal what do you call it? Normal human behavior resumes. Although I guess that's
it feels
what
like
I'm
it's
feeling.
starting to resume now.
Yeah.
I feel like we default to normal human behavior and then we get reminded not to. So normal human behavior is our default. Although I think the month that we spent in lockdown plus the next couple of weeks or so, totaling around 7 really, of extended level 3, and then now here we are in 2, has affected our behavior. Like, I think people are still a little bit wary of each other, and I think there's less people on the road. But by and large, I'm not living in fear. I'm choosing to carry on, and when I see people are keeping their distance, I just respectfully keep up with that. But I'm not a huge fan of it, and I think you know my view on it, because I think it's suspicious in some ways what information we're being fed. And I think it's important that people support podcasts like ours to keep reminding themselves that there are other points of view, and some of those are very well informed, and you've got to keep on top of that.
Well, you bring up the whole topic of freedom of speech and the whole cognitive liberty that we really touched on our last episode. And, everyone's free to express their own opinion and to have a voice. So, and I was having a discussion with a friend of mine last night, actually. Shout out to Michael. And we had a discussion, because I hadn't seen him prior to lockdown. We had, a debate over all these...
Mr. Hellos?
Yes, Mr. Hellos, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
And it was just a debate
G'day,
about, about different points of view. Where do you get your information from? What do you believe? And I said straight off the bat that I thought something was off right from the start.
A lot of people are saying that.
Yeah, and I'm not the only one. And I wanted to explore that further, because there was something within me that I felt, and I thought, oh, that's interesting, and that hasn't stopped. And so that's why I think I went down that path of inquiry of looking at alternative points of views, which I'll do anyway, and questioning it, and doing that objective, balanced approach to formulate a better picture. And then I was listening. And I'm not the only person. I was listening to Russell Brand, and he did like a 15-minute talk.
Oh, what's he said?
Well, he was just saying how there is, so much confusion out there because there is so much information. Can you trust the reliability of the information? But he was sort of critiquing Boris Johnson in his this was an Instagram post, and he would there were snippets of Boris Johnson and him addressing the UK public, and
Right.
he was just trying to read the body language and just saying he felt kind of from a humanity point of view, he's saying, look, these people in these positions of power, I mean, they're really just trying to do the best they can with the situation.
Yeah, nicely said.
And he's going, it's like he doesn't know either. It's like, well, no one really knows. Like, you've got experts saying one thing and then experts saying this, and like, well, who's right and who's wrong? And so there are so many shades of grey. And
There's so many interesting things going on too. Excuse me, folks, whilst you hear me eating this amazing eggs Benny that they've got here at Brown Street Cafe in Avondale. So there's a huge number of people who are really anti-vaccine, right? Who don't want to have this dubious liquid pumped into their arm, thanks to Bill and Melinda Gates, who are going to quote unquote fast track it. And we've always been told that a good vaccine takes 18 months to produce. Now, the fact that they're going to then say, oh, well, we can get you one much, much faster now is really concerning. And it makes you wonder, well, did they always have it all along? Or are they genuinely getting people to go through and fast track the production of this medicine? Well, I would question that seriously, whether you even can, because there are certain things that have a fixed time that take time to get the right answer on. Or you could, roughshod and ride over ethics and processes and medical guidelines and get it done really, really quickly. But I don't know that I want that one, let alone anyone. But I don't know that if I wasn't a vaccines that I would want one that was made that quickly. And here's the interesting thing. Donald Trump, who has a huge right-wing fan base in the US who are all about health freedoms. And I think that's the nice way of saying anti-vaxxers, because but that's okay. I mean, I totally respect that, to be honest. And I'm all for people choosing their own health freedoms and having their own consequences for that, and learning for themselves and knowing for themselves what's right for them. So Donald Trump turns around and says, well, introducing Operation Warp Speed.
Oh, that's right.
Right.
Yeah.
And you must be wondering, I'd be wondering, and this is, the nature of the reality we're in, I'd be wondering if those people who were so supportive of him for all that time are going, what? Operation Warp Speed,
Yeah,
to
and
get the vaccines into us as quick as possible.
I remember bringing that up with you because I don't normally go to all the top news networks, but I mean, every single media news outlet had the same story about how they're all vying to fast track a vaccine, Operation Warp Speed. And I believe Warp Speed comes from the Star Trek term. So, as fast as possible.
Yeah,
Warp Speed.
Well, I mean, it's not the only thing that came from Star Trek, isn't it? Space Force did.
That's right. Yeah, check
Look
out
at those
the logos.
logos. Yeah.
Yeah. It's funny, man. I come back to you brought up the point. It should be a personal choice, freedom of choice, your sovereign choice to what you do with your body, how you look after your body and what you put into your body. That should be your responsibility. And if you're willing to ingest drugs, pharmaceutical drug, whatever, that's fine. But it should not be something that is forced upon you, and then certain things are restricted because of that. If you don't have a vaccine, if you don't have this, then you can't do other things in your life. Other liberties get compromised because of that. It's always you look at something, the positive, and it's always the dualistic nature of everything. You got to look at the pros and cons and weigh it up. But fundamentally, I know what I would choose, and that's I have a connection with my body, a relationship that I've formed over years and years and years of, my desire and curiosity for wellness. And so, I've said this so many times. There's a body wisdom.
You're the thing that you do over all those years and years that people might not realize, by the way you put it so simply, is you really pay attention to your body wisdom and to what it's telling you.
Yeah.
And you really think about it. I think you probably forget to say that because it's so second nature to you.
Yeah, it's and I've come to learn that it becomes, health is a habit, like anything. If you want to become proficient in something, it's a daily ritual or habit, and that's how you hone the skill, and that's how you get in touch, whatever that might be, whether it's an artistic pursuit or a profession or whatever. So it's the same with health. So I am, 110% confident in my ability to maintain my health through mostly natural means, or I can be guided into what the correct approach should be. And so for me, right at the start, whatever this coronavirus is, whatever the virus actually is, I was never fearful of that. In some ways, I've heard some doctors say this as well. I heard, but this is really interesting. In some ways, your immune system needs to be tested, and it needs to.
That's right.
This is good because it builds its strength. It's like anything, you have a defense mechanism. You got to test it once in a while, so that
you got to test it all the time.
Yeah, like all the time.
It's like for fitness, right? You've got to be in shape. You've got to be working out all the time to some extent. By all the time, I mean daily exercise.
Yeah.
I know. I can't really preach right now, but I mean, I know this.
Yeah.
And
you know what's
this,
right.
And I know this about the immune system is basically a system of the body that requires constant challenge. If there was no, and I mean no pandemic, and we took people out of action for 6 weeks, 7 weeks, and on the 7th week extend you to be able to interact with people now at a level 2 kind of interaction. Now, this is what we've done, right? But there's been a pandemic. If we did the same thing with no pandemic, we would find at the end of that period when things return to level 1 that people suddenly get sick. And it's going to happen whether you have a pandemic or not, because as people return to the world and interact with other human beings and shake hands and get back up to the level of interaction with their environment like we all should, where we're challenged with little viruses.
That's our environment that we live in.
Then if you've been sterile for that time, every doctor knows that if you've been in a sterile environment for a long time, you're at risk of then getting infections because your immune system is lowered from lack of challenge, lack of use. Like a withering muscle that isn't used.
I was going to say atrophy. Anyone that's had
immunoatrophy,
a cast on their arm or leg, you can see over time how that muscle atrophies because it hasn't been used. There's no stress was put upon it, and then it's compromised. Well, it's weakened, and then once you are ready to do the rehabilitation process, you can strengthen it again, etc. But you bring up a really good point because every cell in your body, whether it's on your internal organ or every cellular. It goes through a regeneration, right? And there's a cycle, there's a rhythm to it. I mean, I'm not an expert on it, but I realize that there's a cellular regeneration, so that when say you get sick, I've learned that when mucus forms in your nose, or you have a cold or a cough, it's your body's defense mechanism or way of excreting the harmful.
No, this is right.
In simple terms, it's trying to eradicate
There's another example of that. So that's
like a fever is a response.
I was just going to say that example.
So that's a normal response.
And inflammation.
And it's a good thing. And if you, I learned that this is quoted by Dr. Andrew Kaufman.
Oh, the guy who brought up and explained many of the flaws in the understandings of the virus. And
the
test.
And he basically said that if you were to take antibiotics, it actually interrupts the body's natural way of processing the illness. And it sort of interrupts it, but it needs to complete that process. So what happens is you treat the symptoms. That's fine, you're good, but then it has to go back, it sort of resets itself and goes, well, hang on a minute, I haven't completed this process of doing it naturally and organically. And so there's a real fine line between when you interrupt that process with a therapy of some kind and where you don't. So for example, there's a few examples that are in a similar kind of understanding or
you could use as a good example of that. Fever is a really great way of killing bugs. You raise the temperature in the body.
Right.
But if you go into, for example, febrile fever, which is a type of fever for children that you have to worry about for children, because a high fever in a child can kill it. And so then the question is, when do you intervene with something that is antipyretic? And pyretic being or pyre being the old word for fire. Antipyretic is anti-heat. And so you have an antipyretic effect with something like paracetamol, which is known as Tylenol or acetaminophen in the US. And we have various brands for paracetamol in New Zealand.
Yeah.
And that has an antipyretic effect, as well as being pain reducing, as it works on one of the COX-1 or COX-2 pathways for pain in the body. Now that's cool, but should you necessarily always reduce a fever? Right.
Exactly.
Like, because a well-managed fever is a wonderfully healing thing for the body. But a fever out of control is where you jump in and go, this kid's not coping, this human being needs help. You go the same for inflammation. You hit something and it swells up. Now some people have argued that's how the body manages an area that shouldn't be moved. It's swollen up and it's sore. Don't move it, because movement is going to cause more injury, more problem. So to instantly reduce inflammation on a site or an area of injury isn't always the smartest thing to do. Just because you get freedom to move again could mean you're moving and destroying things. So there's so many things that happen in the body which we intervene with, and you used antibiotics as an example.
Yeah, that's
but it's
just
a
one
similar
that came across.
sort of a concept, really, as those two. You know. Now, how does that tie into other treatments? Well, in regards to what we're dealing with in the world with COVID-19, I don't know. I just think those are really interesting points to make about the immune system. We were talking about, that's right, because you need to challenge the immune system every so often.
Yes.
You can't look.
You
these helicopter parents who constantly washing their children's hands, they tend to find, it's a gross generalization, but I think I read it somewhere. Google it and tell me if I'm wrong. But I heard that people and kids that are too sterile are the ones that get asthma more, because they don't get exposed to the natural environment of dust particles and so forth.
Yeah.
Families with dogs have less immune problems. Did you know that? Dogs bring in crap.
Right. Yeah.
We love those dogs and hug them and pat them.
Sense.
We sniff them into our lungs, and dogs lick us and all that sort of stuff. And these are gentle, tiny, daily immune challenges that we cope with fine, and they strengthen our immune system.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, it's so funny. You said to me, don't hit record. If you were eating, you won't be able to respond in time. And then Rob smiles with a mouthful of muffin. A banana bread, I believe.
Just a banana bread, yeah.
Yeah.
I was just thinking, I wonder how many people, having gone through this process of hitting pause, taking stock, and as I say, everyone's situation is different. Some people would have been full steam ahead on the treadmill of life in the work environment.
Some people would have literally been on treadmills for the entire 6 weeks.
if you happen to have one at home. Yeah, lucky you. But yeah, whatever situation you found yourself in, what I asked this from our listeners, what's some positive takeaways that you can take away from this situation? Did you focus more on your well-being and health, because that seemed to be the number one, at the forefront of the entire world because of this pandemic?
Or did you do the opposite and eat all the worst foods and just
because I know people have
habits?
that have been on lockdown and have drunk more alcohol or eaten more.
Yeah.
Or I think I've known other people that have done the opposite and go, I can finally look after my body. So has it raised more awareness about health and wellness? What's come up?
I said it before in the previous podcast. I think this type of stress challenge puts ourselves in a position to play out our natural default routine behaviors. The ones that are subconscious become more to the fore. So those people who don't really pay attention to what they eat are doing so even more so. So they're eating more shit. Those people who are really into going to the gym may be going more so. Right?
Well, constructing some other form of home workout and exercise routine outside of the gym. Yeah.
Because it's kind of if you're dealing with stress, a lot of it's going to be, what is your stress reliever? Now, if your stress reliever was hitting the gym, then either you don't have that and you're going through the roof with stress, or you're hitting the gym at home and running not burpees. What's that thing where you run from one point to another and go back and forth? Peloton. It's the Peloton.
Is it Peloton?
I think so. Yeah.
I used to just call them shuttle runs. Or
shuttle runs is what we call them in NZ. Yeah. So you'll go to what you naturally do. Same with comfort eating. Like if you're a comfort eater, you just comfort eat a whole lot more, and you can get away with it because there's no one around to see you. You don't have to put your makeup on and go outside. You know what I mean? You don't have to get dressed because you're falling out of your bed into your desk and going to work 5 minutes after you got up.
Yeah,
like so many students are. Like so many. I saw this hilarious home work desk setup, and it was an ironing board with a laptop on it, right next to a messy bed with an unmade, messed up futon. I was like, for a lot of people, they're just rolling out of bed onto the desk.
Yeah, I wonder what the positives, what the negatives, and then will you carry these positive new habits or anything that sort of came up that was going to be helpful, and you go, I like that. Are you going to continue that on your day-to-day life as life here in New Zealand sort of gets back to a sort of a normal routine where people are going back to work and going about their business? So,
well, I tell you what, I think sort of what I've just discussed there have been some negative things that people are that I've highlighted. But here's a positive, right? Some people are going to do a lot more work from home. And if they manage that the right way, as opposed to forcing them to do more work, or as opposed to them finding themselves really missing the benefit of getting out and away from the house, if that doesn't bother them and working from home is a convenience, it's really nice that they can start doing more of that.
Yeah.
I think we're going to see buildings in the city reduce the office space sizes they have. I think we'll see large office floor maps being divided into halves or thirds, and you'll have 3 businesses in one location on a floor in a building instead of a one whole floor dedicated to one whole business in a sort of a skyrise scenario in the city. I think you'll also see people doing rotations in the office, and partly you'll see that because it's healthy, and from the perspective of those that have really bought into the virus, you'll see people splitting up the office into teams, team A, B or C. And if we're big enough, if you're a company that's big enough to have three teams of 20, so you've got 60 people in the office, you might have team ABC, and you'll come in for maybe 1 or 2 days a week and do the other days at home. And Monday, Tuesday will be team A, Wednesday, Thursday, team B or something. And your reps, your office reps might come in Friday like they always did and be team C. And there'll be kind of the splitting up of the rotation and a lot of hot desking. So you'll sit down at a desk, you'll be given a laptop issued for work which you're using at home, or you just bring it in and plug it in.
Yeah.
And you don't have to have this whole desk set up and office environment. And I think we'll see changes like that, and a lot more businesses forced to allow staff to work part-time. They don't want staff to work part-time, but they can't pay them because they're just hammered by this economical outcome. So for a short period of time at least, for the smart, agile businesses that want to keep moving forward, and they've got employees who are willing to take a cut in pay in order to not lose a job, for a period of time, I think we're going to see employees taken from 5 days a week down to 4, and they'll go 2 days in the office, 2 days out. And that'll keep the floor space at the office at a lower rent because you don't need such a big office. And it'll allow the business as a whole to cut 20% of their expenses by taking 1 day off. Yeah, and I think that sort of stuff is going to happen. And it could be really good for people because we need to have a better work-life balance. And if we're going to take a real positive out of this, it's for those of us that got time to reflect on all the things that have happened. Those of us who had enough time out in lockdown to hear about the thoughts of Dr. Kaufman, David Icke,
or do their own research,
Russell Brand, do their own research about life. That extra time is going to confront them with their personal issues. Huge rise in huge rise in police reporting violence at home. Domestic violence, that's the word I was looking for.
Yeah.
So talk about confronting with your own issues. You'll be sitting there looking at your child growing up, your 3, 4, 5, 6, whatever year old child, maybe teenager, and going, holy shit, I'm missing out on their life. I'm not involved in their life because I'm the guy that shoots off in the morning, and I'm the dude that comes back at 6. I spend 3 to 4 hours max with them a day, and they're growing up faster than I can get an involvement. And little Johnny Thunder's heading down the wrong path, and he's associating with gangs, and I can't be there to stop it. There's stuff. There's a huge cause for reflection and change because of this.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
And a lot of it can be positive.
It's a big shake-up. It's kind of like, the tree, and you shake that tree and the old leaves fall off and stuff.
Yeah.
It seems like this whole streamlining process, which is being swept through the structure of business and how that's been done. It's being totally reevaluated because of this. But yeah, from kind of one thing that came up for me was just this, like, where are we heading with the whole technology? And because technology came to the forefront with still being connected, doing all these online meetings, and I see it as a double-edged sword. On the one hand,
Totally
it's amazing
double-edged. Yeah.
we have these devices, and it's only going to progress. The technology is only going to exponentially get more and more advanced, etc., etc. And we can go down the whole Elon Musk approach of
The
all
Neuralink
AI.
approach.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I always, I had this debate last night with my friend that from a humanity point of view, what part of our humanity is being compromised in this whole technological advancement? And the young people of today are growing up, they're just immersed in it straight away. They know no better.
That's right.
So everything is online. Your whole social interaction is fundamentally, or mostly online, that to the point where, from what I gather, could be out of touch, but young people no longer actually feel like getting together as much. They don't have to, because they don't have to, like in a physical, personal, capacity. And I'm just going, what's going on? And I'm trying to look at the bigger picture from that perspective, like this kind of
Well, that is a change in our
takeover.
behaviors, isn't it?
Yeah.
An evolutionary change in the way we socially interact with each other.
Yeah, there's evolutionary changes happening, and the question is this for our benefit or not? So,
So, double-edged sword, right?
Yeah.
Shout out to Marwin, who we've had on the show. On Friday, I couldn't get into the city early enough to see him at the gym.
right, because he's back and up and running, right? Would he?
Yeah, he is. And I'll tell you about
Personal
that too in a
training,
moment, because
yeah.
it's a ghost town in Les Mills right now.
I heard. I thought there
you've heard
were
about this?
queues. Yeah,
Yeah,
I thought
apparently
there'd be,
not.
Wow.
But let's come back to that, because I don't want to bag Les Mills. It's not their fault, right?
No, of course not. No, I mean,
they have
the
a
whole health
world-class-
industry, I wonder if that's the same case for all the gyms. Just before you go there, I
Says so
read
much
that
about
in Canada, 43% of the Canadians probably won't go back to the gym straight away. Whoa.
Okay.
For a number of
Bugger it, let's
reasons.
talk about these people then. Because I think what you're looking at with certain gyms is different social stratas of gym-going members. So
Well,
I
people
think
go
if-
in the gym not just to get fit.
Yeah, but we've got different
Get in
gym
shape.
types. We've got the Les Mill types. You've got the City Fitness types. They're kind of similar.
Yeah, you got the
Then
swipey in and out 24-hour gyms like
what's that purple one? Anytime Fitness.
Anytime Fitness and and
the red one, just
Jets.
Jets.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was going to say Just Fitness. Jets. So you've got different kinds of members who view all that process differently, because there's quite a social aspect to Les Mills.
Absolutely,
I mean,
yeah.
for one, you're pulling up in a Audi of some description.
Of course.
And you're sort of saying, "Hey, look at me in my spandex, right? Look at my camel toe as I walk
Yeah,
in."
yeah.
And there's a on display thing going on, and there are a certain class of people who have the wealth and the money and go, "I'm not returning," because they're living in their own fear bubble, and so they don't want to interact with the hungry masses in case that they get their COVID. Then you've got other people who are more at that local home regional gym setup, and they're like, "Screw it, I'm in. I need to keep working out," or I'm an athlete. So you've got different kinds of gym goers. Well, the Les Mills gym goers aren't turning up. Make of that what you like.
For now, it's
Yeah.
only been, 3 or 4
I think
days.
they're going to return in their masses soon enough. But what I'm hearing from Marwin is it's total ghost town. So what did I do with Marwin on Friday? I set up a tripod with my iPhone on
So you did a remote?
on a FaceTime call, and I had my wireless Bluetooth headphones in, and I tilted the camera of the tripod in such a way that he could see the whole room. And I'd laid out a yoga mat for stretching. I had some push-up bars.
Lululemon?
Yeah, of course. No, I was wearing my camel toe. And also, what else did I have? I had some free weights, and I basically had a chair and some free weights, and we did some dips and some lunges, and man, he hammered me.
Yeah.
He hammered me all remotely.
Yeah.
And she says, I was 90 Ks away from him, just getting
Was he
done.
doing this during the lockdown as well? Or was he just started this when the gyms sort of reopened?
Well, this is the thing, because we talk about double-edged sword. This kind of thing should have been happening already, because when the technology came out
Les
for
Mills
FaceTime,
do virtual classes, and they offered them.
Well, if I'm not mistaken, the classes that Les Mills do are pre-recorded.
Yeah,
Nah, screw that for a game of soldiers. I can't keep up with that. I'm just not fit enough. But what Marwan could do for me was tailor my exercises.
Of course, it's
he was
different.
watching my form. He's like, hang on, bro,
yeah.
you need to arch
You
your
have that
back more.
instant live
Yeah.
feedback
Yeah.
correction.
And then he calls me a day later and goes, man, how's your recovery going? He's following up. I mean, he's more than just he's more than just do these weights technically correctly. He's helping being what I would call a kind of almost like a life coach, but he's holding me accountable with follow up and with that mental
precisely, and that's why people
support.
have personal trainers. Yeah,
He was doing what a personal trainer should do in a modern sense, and it's really it's really cool. I think he's going to be doing a podcast soon too, so we'll give a shout out to that when it gets up and running.
yeah. I wonder what he's going to call it.
Yeah, I think he's going to do it differently. He's going to do it. He's got himself this really cool blogging camera. Excuse me. So it's got one of those fold back. It's got one of those fold back monitors that you can have the camera pointing at you, but fold back the monitor so you can see you in it.
Yeah.
And it's a Canon too. It's nothing cheap. And he's going to
Shout out to Canon.
shout out to Canon. But he's going to set that up and talk to people. And he's basically David Goggins and Goggins. He's like, come on.
Yeah, David Goggins, man, he scares me, man, because
Yeah.
he
No, but
tells it
there's a lot more
so
wisdom.
as it is that you almost go, oh, he's right, man. He's right. Well, I got to flip. What am I doing with my life?
Come on,
I got to
mother
harden
trucker.
up, man.
Yeah.
I'm so, and that's either a big turn off for people, like they don't want to. I know people that just can't go there. He's too hardcore, and he is. He's hardcore, but he'll call you up, and he tells it as it is. So I do appreciate that.
Yeah, I probably miscolored that. Marwan's not like that. He's a pretty nice guy.
Yeah, no, because Marwan's very in tune and very
Yeah, he is.
and very sensitive with energy, right?
Yeah, totally. In fact,
which is a very cool.
I'll read you the last message he sent.
Which is a very cool thing to have, and which reminds me, coming back to this whole energy thing.
Yeah.
And technology, like we are energetic beings, but when you break everything down, every living organism has an energetic frequency of resonance. And we know this, a living thing when you go out in nature. So it's coming back home to who are you and what are you as a human being, and what's your connection to your environment. And I've said this before, the whole thing about, well, where do you actually live? What's the environment you live in, and what's your connection with that? And ultimately, Mother Earth, this planet, is going to have the last say in terms of what she allows. It's the living. I'm trying to get the right words here, but we're living in an environment that supports a life, and we have all these planets in our solar system which all have a purpose, and there's all when you get in touch with that, just on a real basic level, you realize that what are we doing as humans? Like, really? Like, what's really going on, man?
Yeah,
when you get deep into it, and I like really journeying deep and going, ultimately, we have a short, brief moment in our lifespan here. We're all going to transition, right?
Yeah.
And so when you come
transition into AI,
well,
some of us will.
yeah. And who really knows?
Yeah.
But yeah, I like sort of getting the deeper, I guess the feeling behind it, rather than just getting into the whole logical, sensical thing of stuff.
Yeah.
And then I think you're better able to make better decisions about things. And
Thank That's deep, bro. I was about to read out what Marwan texted me, but I just don't know if I will anyway.
Yeah, go for
But
it.
if you want to know how Rob feels right now, go out, stare at the sky, and look, and realize that you're looking at infinity,
Yeah, well,
Right?
I mean,
right? Because that's where you're coming from, big picture thinking. There.
big picture thinking.
Yeah.
Yeah, getting right back down to it and getting down to the elemental, fundamental realities of the construct of this human experience.
Right.
Because it's easy to get caught up in all the drama. Like it's played out, and sometimes you got to, because I find myself getting pulled into it. And it's kind of a headspace thing. And I know
Pulled into it with the 2 meter distance markings on the floor. That
yeah,
kind of thing.
like these
weird shit like
artificial
that.
constructs, which we're
Yeah.
not. You don't see this happening in nature. An artificial,
Yeah.
the fish aren't. I'm just trying to, like there's not these like borders and borders in countries and stuff. They're all. As I say, the map is not the territory. It's an artificial construct. It's overlaid. That's man-made. But when you take that away, then what are you left with?
Right.
You like the raw kind of essence of living. And what my feeling is that the technology is just pulling you away from that more and more.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because, I mean, if
the
you're
other side of
staring,
that
if you're
double-edged
staring
sword.
at a screen, right, you're not getting the energetic connection that you would if you're sitting down with the person in real life.
Totally.
And reading all the nuances and feeling
Yeah.
the energy and having that. I mean, we all have, and we all emanate some sort of energy, and because we have a life force within us, so and that's so fundamental with how we operate as human beings. So I feel like whenever you have this, like you have an intermediary device,
Yeah.
that we don't need that, but it exists and it's useful.
So here's the thing. I mean, you've really got me thinking.
Yeah.
Because when we are limited by technology versus when we are expanded or convenienced by technology, you go, oh, this isn't so good. But here's the thing. People like, I'm gonna harp on Marwan again for a second. I'm not even gonna tell him I'm doing this episode. If he hears it, that's cool. But he was able to connect with me over that FaceTime call and watch me and sense when I was out of shape, when I was just out of breath, go, okay, take this a bit slow. And I got a real sense of his vibe. And some people have the ability spiritually to connect with others at great distance. So they're not limited by the distance.
Right.
And I think some people
Yeah.
break that technological boundary and they just smash through it energetically and they just tune into another person. And for them, for the special types in the world, you feel like they're right there present with you. And I think that's entirely possible spiritually, energetically. But a lot of people aren't able to do that. And for a lot of people, everything you said is 100% because once you've got that distance, you are now distanced from others. And I think there is, for most people, a limit to the effect that one's energy has on another. And it might be a limit of 4 to 5 feet. And then that's it.
Right.
If you're not present with them,
Yeah.
you are not, you're just disconnected. For some people, they can reach through the screen, and really reach out to you. And we can
Right.
feel their energy and you can sense it. And you go, whoa, I can tune into that energy, even though they're not with you.
They've disrupted the matrix.
They've totally fucked that matrix up the ass. They've totally said, "Screw you! I'm not.
Yeah.
You're not limiting
Well,
me."
they've done that as well. Yeah.
Okay, well that's what I'm. Yeah.
Yeah.
But so Marwan texts me and he goes, "How's the muscle recovery going, bro?" And I go, "Yeah, feeling fine, no problems. Generally feeling good. I feel like I've had a workout, but I'm not too hammered. It's a good balance." And he replies, "Great to hear, bro. Good pace to kickstart up again." Because the fact was, we didn't go too hard, but I was hammered. And he goes, and then the piece de resistance. He goes, "When's your next planned workout?"
Yeah.
Right. And he knows he doesn't mean with him. He means just, when am I getting my shit together?
Yeah.
And I go, I sort of think to myself, okay. And I write back, "Tomorrow. Thanks for asking. Wasn't planned, but it is now."
Yeah.
Now it
that's
is.
that whole accountability, isn't it?
And then he finishes off with this. And this is really to his credit. He goes, "Perfect, bro. Let's keep compounding those small micro changes."
Wow. Compounding the micro
I
changes.
mean, that's gold. He said recently, he said there's a real difference between goal and strategy. goal is nice to have, but a strategy tells you how to get there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, you do. Yeah. You need a game plan. Yeah. Strategy. Yep.
Yeah.
And strategy, I guess, also implies, well, strategy can be fluid as well.
Yeah.
You can change it up. But yeah, you got to, once again, as a human being, it's like when you're compelled to do something, if you have the passion, if you have a desire, that's the fuel, that's the energy which gives you that motivation. You have this reason as to
we
why you're
often
doing
have a lot of motivation to change, but not the fortitude to stick to a routine to keep changing.
Yeah, yeah.
And unfortunately, a lot of negative programming that we haven't dealt with, which just gets on top of the desire to change.
Yeah.
Not on top of the desire, but on top of the physical manifestation of the habits to change. Yeah.
And also, it's like people are afraid of what other people think as well, and so they don't attempt or do things. I was catching a bit of Gary Vee. And he does
Gary
these,
Vaynerchuk.
He has these online sort of coaching sessions, and he hates the word compare.
Yeah.
It's like you might be wanting to start a podcast, or you might want to get a social media following. You're always just comparing, and he goes, "Oh, no, don't compare." It's like it's not about the likes. It's not about comparing. It's about doing what you want to do, and focusing on that and going down that journey. Whenever you compare, you're kind of, it's, I guess you're either feel less than or more than. You kind of you're always sort of judging yourself comparatively.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Speaking of comparisons, there's a really nice podcast that listeners of our podcast might also enjoy. Nah, what? It's called
What?
Yeah, so that's the. And how is it? It's 2 years, not 3, right? Yeah.
I think it's 3 years.
3 years.
3 years.
Yeah. Nah, what?
Nah, what?
Nah, what?
Yeah.
It's an Australian podcast from Steve and Janine. Steve is a New Zealander, and so was Janine, at one
Yeah,
point.
expats living
They're
in
both
Aussie.
expats living in Aussie. One's an actor who was in Lord of the Rings, and he's been in a ton of stuff that as a Kiwi you'd know. And Janine's now an acting coach and life coach, isn't she?
Yeah, I actually did promotions with Janine, and then did acting classes with her that she ran.
Yeah.
Acting workshops and stuff. And then, she's amazing. She's, mentor, life coach. She's a writer. She's done a whole bunch of retreats and stuff, around the world. I think she's done the whole Finer Minds seminars and events.
Nice.
And she's done corporate stuff, and she's a Reiki teacher. Yeah. But just general all around.
She's feisty too. I love the way she was talking about how she hated this whole control system.
Yeah, she's just questioning it.
If you're listening, Janine, check your emails, mate. I'd love you to come on the show.
Yeah.
I got in touch. I'd love to hear back from you.
We got to organise that.
We got to organise it.
Definitely, because the cool thing about Janine is she's very open to all the woo-woo stuff and to questioning and to kind of curiosity. You just got to be curious.
Yeah,
and
Steve's really quite a funny guy.
Yeah,
he's really. I love
Steve's
what the
cool.
two of them had to say. They're good hosts, and so any of our Australian fans, if they want to hear something going on in your own country, there's what?
And their first episodes were obviously talking about.
Although I think we can only find them on Spotify, right?
Yeah, from what I gather. Yeah.
All right.
But their first episodes were obviously talking about the pandemic, COVID-19, and just questioning it all, and what was happening in Australia, and all the usual stuff that has been brought up with everyone, and everyone's got a take on it.
Australia's really interesting. Let's talk. This reminds me of something I wanted to talk about today. We're talking about the things that we've been going through post lockdown in this new way of living.
Where are we at now?
So there's a lot of signing into places.
Yes.
Right, but not all places. I love that thing you showed me with that girl on Instagram, that lady, who was comically going through. So you've got to wear a mask, except when you don't have to wear a mask.
Yeah. So we don't sign into the supermarkets.
Yeah, that's right.
Do we?
So
No.
you must sign in, except where you don't have to sign in.
Yeah.
You must keep 2 meters distance, except in the supermarket when you can pass each other shoulder to shoulder. Except that you must keep 2 meters distance outside when there's more wind blowing. But when there's no wind blowing, you can really catch the infection. You've got to be inside.
Yeah.
It's okay.
And you can't venture outside unless you're exercising but you can't go, or you can go to the park, but you can't. You know, there's all these
contradictions. Because
contradictions.
the truth is, the world is making up their own sort of maybe guidelines on what we should do, because no one really knows.
Yeah, and the people that are
Yeah.
making it up are the experts, and the people that are
well,
advising the experts. And
They're the experts in making it up.
yeah,
Yeah.
and it's like, well, yeah, and
I mean, you must wear a mask, except that there's no evidence that it works, and so now they're saying that people who are wearing masks really should only be doing it as a courtesy to others if they're sick. But if you're sick, why are you outside? You know, why are you getting around? Stay inside. You know, and then there's that whole thing of mask wearing evidence showing that it starts you on a path of becoming gradually more hypoxic, so less.
I couldn't stand
access
wearing
to
a mask
oxygen.
because
And what does that do? It increases your antibodies,
Yeah.
so then you test positive for things you don't have. Just a point. Anyway, so we're signing into places, right? And I notice if you had an agenda to get people tracked and use it, let's like kick off with, maybe you thought I'll head to microchipping, but before I get there I'll go to a Bluetooth app, and before there I'll get everyone to sign in, and I'll have that so inconvenient that will force everyone to have an app that Bluetooth interacts with others. Well, you might want to report on how bad people have, you know, abused the system of signing in. So someone might, for example, go to Subway and sign in and leave their phone number and address, and then we could put it all over the news about how some dropkick Subway worker decided to contact that woman and be inappropriate with her. Hundreds of thousands, many people would have gotten out and had to write their name on a piece of paper,
Yeah.
and most of them would not have been bothered by any of those staff members. But let's highlight the one person who did, so that we can push that agenda of fear and shift it into phone apps that track you. And then eventually,
well, I was just going to say, like, most of us have a smartphone.
Yeah.
The technology's there; they can just track us anyway. Why even bother with all the signing in shit? Next time I'm being asked to sign in, I'm saying, look, I'm being tracked anyway. I've got my phone.
Big Brother's watching anyway.
Doesn't matter.
It's just not official yet.
Just cut out all the manual
Yeah.
stuff. It's already happening. So
Exactly. That's so true. But we're not supposed to know that. What we're supposed to do is
Well-
get to a place where we willingly know they're tracking us. Yeah. I'm gonna next time I go to Bunnings and they ask me to use the smartphone app. I heard someone went to a Bunnings and they weren't allowed in unless they had that very smartphone app. Next time that happens, I'm getting a dumb phone. You know, one with keypads. I'm going to go, this is the phone I've got. If you want to buy me a smartphone, I'll come in for that.
yeah. Oh, dude, it's once again, it's that whole technology debate
Yeah.
and what it's being utilized for and to what end, and you can go down that whole path of
Yeah.
who's controlling it, and you know, the access to information, and it's whether you want to go venture down that rabbit hole. And
It's not a happy place, is it?
it's good to be aware of these things.
Yeah.
And because, you know, it's better, you know, is it better to be ignorant and have your head in the sand, or or is it better to have an awareness
Yeah.
and to expand your capacity to observe and to think and to question and to be curious and educate and evolve and all those things? I mean, yeah, I would like, honestly, I just want to know the truth to any situation. So, and I was talking about this last night. If I contracted this virus, if the virus exists, and
Yeah.
they've isolated that this is what it is,
Yeah.
right? Okay. I want to know if I get infected and if something, like, say if you died, I died from that cause and not from something else.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
That would be the truth. So
Yeah.
if you drowned, you go, okay, that's how I died. You know, it's clear cut, but it just seems to be this. I've felt that there's this such confusion surrounding all that.
Well, there's been plenty of evidence of
There's
what
so
you're saying.
much evidence. That's the
There's
thing. I've heard
all
countless.
throughout the world. They've been encouraging people to put down COVID-19.
Yeah, and I've heard that
as a death.
over and over again. And
When, in
we
fact,
can
they
give you the
didn't die of
reasons
that.
why. Do your
Yeah.
research, but
Yeah.
basically it comes down to money and the funding and who controls it, the powers in the system and stuff.
Well, that
And it
American
makes sense.
that American hospital example is just a shocker. of
Yeah,
that.
but it's happened in
Yeah.
Australia, and it's, you know,
Yes, it
I've
has,
heard
yes, yeah.
it's not just so it's just about questioning, going, hang on a minute, you know, I'd want to know that that's legit, real, then I'm happy with that. That's the truth. Mm-hmm. But there's this part of me that's going to go, kind of just want to know what really.
Oh, there's so much
and
going on.
and
there.
you may
Yeah.
we may never know. We may never actually.
Yeah.
And there might be people that do know the truth and are trying to say the truth. And then I brought up the whole censorship thing about how so many videos get deplatformed if you go against the general consensus narrative.
Yeah, all that's done for me because of how that was highlighted with Brian Rose and London
Yeah.
Real, is it's made me go straight to his website to watch things instead of trying to find them on YouTube.
Yeah.
And I recommend that to anyone who knows of a really good maybe information provider. Would be one way of putting it, an alternate view on things. Try and support them on their own personal website.
Yeah, and I wouldn't even call London Real alternative.
That's
because
so mainstream.
600 plus guests, and we're talking people that you know, people that you don't know, but people that are, excel in their fields, whether it's scientists or sports people or actors or.
Well, you said
know.
it on the last podcast or
Yeah,
one
there's
before.
so
Just
many.
listed
So there's
off all
something
those
for
people.
everyone, but
Yeah.
the cool thing is, they're allowed to just sit down, say anything they want, and then they normally say good things, like positive things,
Yeah.
that expand your mind.
I mean, look at David Icke.
And it's not
finishes as a message of love.
yes, I know. Like
Yeah.
the overwhelming thing was that we're all connected, that it's all about love, and it's all about getting back to that place and connecting and coming from
Yeah.
and let love be your guide and inspire you and yeah, it's overwhelmingly positive.
Yeah.
But also highlighting some of the stuff that maybe people aren't aware of, the negative stuff. And
People
And,
really need to laugh right now, and they need that to bring themselves back into a state of equilibrium and push out of that vibration. Of fear.
yeah.
Blair was asking me, "Hey man, do you want to do another theatre show? What do you want? What one of the ones we've been doing, which was a drama, or should we do a comedy?" And our whole group in our message thread went, "Well, we love what we're doing, but man, let's do a comedy.
Yeah.
The world needs to laugh right now." Yeah,
Yeah. Exactly. I mean, light and dark coexist, and it's all about balance. So,
sure is.
yeah.
Man, this has been great. We should do this again more often. I hope
Yeah.
the sound quality is not too bad. For those of you listening, we've been at Brown Street Cafe on Rosebank Road in Avondale, right in the heart of Avondale. And our thanks go out to Jeff and the crew here who let us record and scare away a few customers. It was fun. And what a great
It's-
eggs Benny that was.
Yeah, it's been so cool trying something a little bit different in a
Yeah.
more, I suppose, relaxed atmosphere. Or we're out in public. We're not locked in a studio. We're not doing this remotely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, on that note, have a great week, everyone. And till next time.